Hey guys, and welcome to a new format on this channel. The format is going to be about going in depth into workflows. So today, for example, I have two MIDI files and I want to create sounds. So we're going to go from scratch, from zero. We're going to take plain Serum, so to say, and build two sounds. So that's going to be interesting because you're going to see all the little steps on how to make those presets. And you're also going to see, like, sometimes you go in the wrong direction and then you have to decide where to go back, right? So this is going to be very interesting, I think. Let us know in the comments how you like it and if you want to see more like this. And for sure, the sounds, you can download them for free by clicking here in the description. But I really recommend you to try to rebuild them as well when you're watching this video, because this is going to be a very good exercise and also will help you to find your own ways to form the sound. So without any further addition, I would say let's design some sounds. So first of all, we have this drum beat here. It is entirely made out of samples from the Peak Time Techno pack, which is up on our shop. You should check this out. And there's also a bass line included. But we will only need it for the first MIDI pack, which is this one. The second one here is going to be some kind of bass line-y stuff, so we might not need the bass line here. And I would say, let's start with the first one. This is the pattern, so you can already see this is some kind of Arpeggio style MIDI pattern. And we already have some nice velocity values, which is cool. And I would say, let's just drag in Serum. And let me adjust the envelope 1 a little bit, make it like real plucky, so we can have a good overview over the notes and what they are doing. Okay, so what comes into mind when we're hearing a sound like this, right? A melody like this. It's kind of very fast, and also the notes are all very close together. So the pluckiness is already a nice first idea to build the sound on, right? If we make it even a little shorter. We could, for example, do this kind of movement, right? This is one of the first things I would do if I'm trying to build a sound, right? I would just play around with all the parameters that I have. So this is why I also like to use like real synthesizers, because I can just try stuff out. But you can do the same thing here in Serum, you know, as I did it. Just move the knobs and yeah, let me add another oscillator and also a filter. And I'm going to open it for now. And now I'm going to try out some different methods that are very common to make a nice sound. For example, the detuning. Like we can take the two oscillators, the two saw waves, and detune them just a little bit. This is already a nice idea, I think, because it kind of makes the sound more dark and, I don't know, a little weird, which should be nice for this techno beat because we don't want it to be too clear and too bright sounding, right? So maybe we can also change something about the waveforms. So let me just go to the basic mini, which I think is very nice, has very nice shapes. And we have the option to take this saw or the square, for example. And I think maybe we can take one saw and maybe we add one completely different oscillator. Like we could take something, for example, from the Uno. Always has those nice overtone structures. And one very important thing, what I'm already hearing on the sound is we need an echo, right? So let's add the delay here, and we can decide later on how to set it. So first of all, I want to go to dotted 8s. And the next important thing I want to do is already use the velocity, so we can get a little bit more feeling of how this works, right? How the sound is, how the velocity is going to impact the sound. So we add velocity on the amp and put the amount actually almost to the top, right? I think that's fine. And let's have a listen now. So you can already hear the difference between no velocity and the velocity on the amp. It's interesting to hear how much this affects the sound already. And we can go a step further and take maybe the filter cut off here and add it just a little bit. So now that you can see that when we're playing with the sustain, the sound gets kind of bigger, and we can use this later on in automations, or we can also put a modulation on that. We could also, for example, put the velocity on here and make the louder notes even fatter by boosting the sustain. We could do it the exact opposite way, like this. And no matter what we decide, what this is going to be in the end, one thing we really should do is add an envelope on the filter. So to get nice movement, this is already the easiest step to get this movement. And let's check out how the envelope sounds like with different decay times here. You could also, again, take the velocity, for example, here. Right, this just shows the endless amount of possibilities that you have with those digital synthesizers like Serum, for example. You can map everything onto everything, and that's just beautiful. So let's keep it like this and add another oscillator, right? Let's add some noise here. Just add a little bit of this kind of noisy texture. What we can also try, though, one of my favorite tricks is to take the noise as a modulation source, noise oscillator, and put it on the filter, which is always interesting. Yeah, I like this a lot because it gives us this very, very, very analog feeling of kind of everything is just in this noise field just a little bit. So everything's nice from now. The sound is just a little, like, it doesn't really have an identity yet. So what it does have is a nice body, like all the, so to say, fundamentals of the sound are right. But now we need to find those things that make it interesting, the things that make it our sound. So we're gonna try to play with the warp algorithms here. We're gonna try to add effects. I can take back the delay now. And I wanna try and work with the hyperdimension, with the distortion, phasing could be nice. We can try all this out. But first of all, let's try some warp algorithms. And I'm activating the sub, killing the level here because I might want to use it for FM. So for example, let's put this off for a moment and add some FM here. I'm just a huge fan of frequency modulation because whenever you use it, there's going to be a new kind of sound that you never heard before, and you can use this so nice. So for example, this could already be interesting. I feel like this kind of supports the detuned vibe of our sound, so I think I'm going to keep it, but I definitely want to add an EQ now because it will add a lot of low frequencies here to keep the sound clean. And actually, let's try the whole thing 1 octave lower. Changed the filter here to 18 dB per octave. I just thought this sounds a little nicer, especially with the low notes here. This is now a little more kind of, I mean, I don't want to say advanced. It's more like just a little more out of the box thinking, like to add the velocity on the warp, which is the frequency modulation coming through the sub oscillator. So depending on the velocity of the note, we're going to get just a little bit different amount of frequency modulation, which is going to result in totally different overtone structures. So let's enable the oscillator here once again and just listen to oscillator A. Let's also real quick add some side chaining here. One thing I want to try now is how to make this second oscillator more interesting. And I think one thing that is always nice is to have one oscillator in mono, so we're not using the unison here, and one can have the unison, so we have this kind of best of both worlds type of thing. So let's try this on here. Okay, this octave +1 I love. That's just like now the stereo elements sit much better on top of the other sound. So I'm even thinking if we can maybe take away some more of the harmonics here, like maybe lower the frequency modulation or something, or take another octave here. Let's try out some stuff. Okay, I definitely like this high rate, high detune level hyper thing here, but I think it always kind of puts the sound so much into like the stereo field, and all the frequencies get kind of, you know, it gets much more massive, and I don't know if that's the right idea for this sound. So for example, what I would do here is take the macro, add it on here, and be like, okay, this is hyper, and then later in the track I can boost this to create this feeling, right? I can even connect this, let's say, that might be a little too wild, but let's say connect it with the frequency modulation to boost both at the same time. And maybe we could also add the sustain and just a little bit of the release. And we would need the cutoff, but I think we should not add this here, but do it like separately, the both of them together, right? Right, this is super cool. So we can call this hyper automation or so, right? And one thing I also want to do is maybe cut away some of the higher frequencies already. And also let's not put that much of the noise modulation on the filter. I think it's a little too much by now. Like this is much better. It still feels like there's some like crispiness on the sound at some points. And yes, I like the sound so far. Nice. So to conclude this preset, kind of, I would, for example, take this here, right? And where is it? Envelope 2 on the filter cutoff, right? I would go here, put this on macro 2. So macro 2 now decides how much of the envelope actually controls the filter. So we call this envelope cutoff. And this is going to be a good one for automations as well. And yeah, maybe there's even more stuff. For example, we could, what could we do? We could automate the octave here over the track. That would be interesting, but that would make sense to put it on the macro. So yeah, we could maybe play around with the frequency modulation. We could add more effects. For example, distortion, just a little bit is always nice. Let's try out, for example, some tape saturation. I think flanging also works kind of nice on the sound, so we could add this as another effect. But yeah, feel free to try this out yourself. And I think like this, I'm going to save it and you can play around with this even more, and we have a nice arpeggio here already. So I just had a look at the time and it took me way too long to build the first one. So with the second one, I want to be a little faster. I just put the bass line off because this is already going to be a very deep and low sound. And let's have a listen to the pattern at first. Sounds great, right? So maybe let's just add some envelopes here to just get an idea what this is about. Okay, interesting low thing, and we can try and play around with this a little. So what I want to do first is put it even lower. Yeah, add a second oscillator. That can stay on the usual octave, right? We add everything to the filter again. I mean, this already sounds so interesting. I think this one is gonna be very, very nice. Okay, the 12 dB. Okay, the 12 dB filter is perfect, right? If we compare this. I mean, we could even go with the 18 and we could even go with the 24 if we want to, but I think 12 is like a nice combination of having a lot of information from the mid area, but not too much, like in the 6 dB, which also gives us a little information of the like 4,000, 5,000 hertz or something. So this is nice. This is super nice already. And we should try playing with the velocities as well. And what I want to do is trigger the decay once again. Let's also add the velocity on the amp. And I would already say resonance is one thing you should automate, that's for sure. So yeah, I'm gonna put this here. This can, I mean, this could already be like an LFO movement as well. Like, check this out. Okay, let me put this off here again. LFO movement is already too nice. Let's put some amplitude modulation here. That's a little different than frequency modulation. I don't want to go too deep into this now. But one thing that is obvious is it doesn't add too much of those overtones, but rather just add some nice harmonic frequencies, maybe even not too high, which just makes the sound a little thicker, right? And yes, let me put this back up. I want to do the noise trick again actually here, because I think this will sound very nice. So we're going to take the noise oscillator, put it on the filter. And you know what? This is what we should use to automate the like to move the cutoff instead of moving the actual cutoff, because it just sounds so great with the noise on it. Then I want to add just a little bit more movement, and I want to go like this on 2 bars, but really, I mean, this is like 3, an automation intensity of 3. I mean, this should be a second layer, right? I'm just playing around, right? But it shows like how easily you can set this up now. I mean, I would just duplicate the sound, delete this, use the square waves to build my lead on that, and then maybe like change the notes just a little bit. So also let me know in the comments if you want to see more like this, like building on the sound. So maybe in the next video I can show you with this sound how we can build up on that, right? So we don't need the sub oscillator. We could add another low saw wave to make it just a little fatter, but I think that's not necessary. I mean, what we could do is detune everything now just a little bit, so that would make everything feel a little fatter, but also phased. That's very nice, and I think one thing that I want to try out here is what if the E is up and we overlap those notes a little and we add some portamento, some glide, right? And again, we could add just a little bit of distortion. I mean, I wouldn't always do this in Serum because sometimes you also have nicer plugins that can do the job maybe a little bit better. But on the other hand, it's nice to have a sound like here in the chain that is already super nice. Like if we can add some nice tape saturation to make the sound just a little fuller, why not do it already in Serum? Once again, maybe you should try it out yourself. I don't want to make this videos too long, so let me just add the phaser here. And I think now you have two sounds that you can play with that are very nice. I hope you learned something in this video. I think it's very interesting to watch someone work and not just tell them about the work they already did before. So if you think this is as interesting as I think, let us know in the comments and we're gonna make more of those videos. And until then, I would say have a good time and keep making music.